Hey guys, so in today's video we are going to create the travel planner AI, which is an application that lets users enter a destination, start the end date and preferences and also the budget, and generate an itinerary for the desired vacation dates. Okay, we also get a real-time map update and a weather update. And the problem that I've encountered many times is when I use my old workflow, which is basically just hopping into Cursor and start and telling it to create the application from the start, I usually run in a bunch of errors. Okay, so you probably know these dreading red messages in the terminal. And one way to fix this issue is to kind of restructure your workflow. Okay, so what you want to do is to create a new workflow, which is basically before you start coding anything in Cursor, you want to create a project requirements doc, which is a breakdown of your application. Okay, so you have a quick description, which is for example, for my travel planner AI, it's a web application that allows users to input travel details such as destination, dates, preferences, and budget to receive a personalized itinerary and travel plan generated by AI. And you also want to define the core features. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can create the project requirement doc, and then you will use the information from the project requirement doc to help you generate a front end, and then do the implementation with Cursor, where you basically give Cursor each feature one by one, and you will drastically minimize the amount of errors that you will generate during the process. Okay. Now, without further ado, let's start. Let's jump into the video. Okay, guys, now before we start coding, we'll head to Cursor and open a new file inside of the current file directory, which I call Travel Planner AI. You want to use the basic agenda, quick description, core features, documentation, and file structure. And now, before you even start coding, you want to think about your project and what problem it actually solves, okay? In our case, we are going to create a Travel Planner AI, which lets the user enter a destination, a start and end date, and preferences and a budget, and will give this information to Claude so that it can generate an itinerary based on that. Okay, so I will write a web application that lets users enter information like destination, start and end date, preferences, and a budget, and get a personalized itinerary and travel plan. Now, as for the core features, we will have enter information like destination, start and end date, preferences, and a budget. Get a personalized itinerary and travel plan. Show a real-time map update of the location, and also show real-time weather update of the location. Itineraries to Superbase database. Now, this is a fairly small project. Okay, we only have like 5 core features, but as a demo, that's more than enough. And if you've never written a PRD or project requirements document, it will probably take a bit of time, but it's worth it, okay? Because you will give Cursor small chunks of problems to solve, and it's way better at solving those small problems than if you would just create a web application that does XYZ, because you will probably just get one big file and it will just make debugging a horrible experience. And also, if you don't really know what you're doing, it becomes quite hard to build the application. Now you want to go one level deeper and become even more specific when it comes to each feature. Okay, so to get a personalized itinerary and travel plan, we have to make an API call to Anthropic's Claude to generate an itinerary and travel plan. Then we need to format the API response to be more readable. And we also need to insert the API response data in the right spot in our front end. As for the real-time map update of the location, we have to connect our application to Mapbox API and get the map data. And we have to connect our application to OpenWeather API to get the weather data and the longitude and latitude of the application. Now we actually create all relevant tables in Supabase, create a connection from our app to Supabase, display the saved itineraries in the front end. Now we're probably going to update these steps a bit because we're giving them to Claude to create a more detailed project requirement documentation. But for now, let's just go with this. Now that we've set up the basic core features, we want to add the different documentations for Cursor to use, okay? Now, I've already told you how to add documentations to Cursor. You simply open the Composer window, you hit the add sign, you click on docs, and then you click on add new. You can add the URL, you hit enter, and then it will be added to Cursor so that you can add each documentation to the Composer as context. But the other thing we want to do is to add our documentation to the project requirements document, and we want to add the specific code snippets that Cursor can use to build the different features, okay? So we'll start with the Anthropic API. So we'll switch back to the browser, we'll enter anthropic.com, and we want to click on Get Started Now so that we are redirected to console.anthropic.com. And there we want to explore the documentation and click on User Guides and want to click on Quick Start. And here we want to scroll down to Call the API and click on TypeScript. Copy that code snippet, switch back over to Cursor, and we want to write, okay, API call. Here's a code snippet to get started. We want to paste it here, and we want to do the same for Mapbox API, OpenWeather, and for Supabase. Now, for that, we'll switch back to the browser again. We'll open mapbox.com, and once it's loaded, you create an account, you click on Get Started for free, and you click on Documentation. And we want the client SDK, which is the Mapbox GL.js library. We want to click on the docs, and what we need is this one, this Getting Started guide. As you can see, we have the code snippet here. We want to copy it, and we want to enter the same. Here's a code snippet to get you started. Enter the code, and we also want to do the same for the OpenWeather API, openweathermap.org. You do the same, just go ahead, create an account, click on API, and you want to click on API docs. And here we need this part of the API, and we also need the geocoding API, because as you can see, you can only fetch the weather update of the specific location if you have the latitude and the longitude. So it's not enough to simply enter, for example, Tokyo or New York. You need the specific geolocation, because obviously there are more than one city that are called New York, for example. Okay, so we'll do the same. We'll just copy all of this and paste it here. Here's the code snippet to get you started to fetch the weather data. And again, we'll just paste that And here's, okay, as you can see, cursor already, what's it called? And as you can see, cursor already completes what I probably want to write. Okay, here's the code snippet to get you started. Fetch the longitude and latitude. Again, we are going to click on the geocoding API, and we also want to copy that. Okay, and we want to delete that. Now we have that, and the last thing we need is Superbase. Here's a code snippet to get you started to save the itineraries to Superbase. So for now, we need to initialize Superbase, and we want to go to superbase.com. And for those of you who don't know what Superbase is, it's basically an open source alternative to Firebase, because prior to Superbase, you were able to use other services like AWS from Amazon or, as I've said, Firebase. But those two services basically pushed you into their architecture and into their products, right? So there was no real alternative that you can use to basically host anywhere. And that's also why Superbase gained popularity so quickly. The other thing that I want to add to Cursor is just the initialize Superbase code. Here it is now. So we want to use this, add the code snippet, and now we are pretty much ready to create our project. Now that we've created our enhanced PRD with all the necessary features, steps, and also the code snippets, we can start creating our project. We'll just type npx create next app at latest and want to create it in the current directory. Yes, we want to use the source directory. Now, you probably wonder why you can't find the PRD inside of our project directory, and I just deleted it for now for the sake of creating the project structure, because if you use npx and you want to create the project in the current directory, which you can do by using this dot, you actually get an error. Now, that's why I will create a new file, and I will call it prd.md, and I will just paste the PRD again. And now we have our boilerplate code. We have the source directory with our app folder, and there we can start coding. Now we'll open the composer, and we want to create the first user input. Now, you probably wonder how it will look like. So we haven't yet generated a front-end design, right? And for that, I want to create a new folder and call it public. And let me quickly put that here. So as you can see, I've generated a front-end design. Since I'm not really a designer, I've used a service for that, and it's called Wizard. Now, for the sake of this video, I don't want to walk you through the process of creating the front end, but it's pretty easy. You just have to create an account and you can work with their AI. If you want to know how to use Wizard, leave a comment below. But for now, we'll just work with this design, okay? And we'll go into the composer and we tell it, okay, please, I want to create a web app called Travel Planner AI, and I want to start with the first feature that you can find in prd.md. Please also go ahead and create a footer and header component and make the input form fields look exactly like in the design travel planner, planner.png, but only create the travel planner since we will generate the code step by step. Create as many files as necessary, but as few as possible. So because I figured the fewer files you give to a cursor, the fewer mistakes it will make. So we'll hit enter, and it should go ahead and create the 3 files, header, footer, and travel planner AI. It should create the files in the correct directory. Now, as you can see, it created a new folder inside of the source directory, which is called components, and there it put the footer, the header, and also the travel planner input. Now we will probably get a few errors once it's done, because let's hit accept all and see if it works. So for that we hit npm run dev. We'll switch back to the browser and we'll open our localhost 3000. Now, okay, we get an error in the travel planner input, and we have to add use client at the top. Now, as you can see, the styling still looks a bit off, obviously. We can easily fix this. Okay, this looks good, but the styling looks a bit off. Please make the label color and text color in the placeholders and the actual text, the user types is typing black. Now it should change the Tailwind CSS. Those are the different classes that you can see here. For example, background blue 50. It will add text black. Probably, as you can see, it added text black. Now we'll hit accept all. We'll go back, and now it looks a lot better. And so this is it for the first feature, which is the user-friendly form. And now we want to add the next feature, which is the AI-generated itinerary. For that, we'll copy this second feature, and we'll tell Composer I want to add the second feature that you can find in PRD.md. Please also use the code snippet for the API call in PRD, and we'll again copy that part in PRD.md. For best practices, use Anthropic docs and create an extra file for the route and API call. I don't want you to add the API call in a component file. So this is what Cursor sometimes does. It could go, if we don't specify the last part, it could just change the travel planner input and just put the API call inside of this file, which is not really best practice. You want to have an extra folder which is called API or something like that, and there you will find the different API routes that we're going to use throughout our project. Okay, so first of all, for the Anthropic API call, but also for the Mapbox API and the OpenWeather API. So the code base is easier, manageable, and also debugging is easier later down the line. So did I forget something at the API component in a API call in a component file? And please make the itinerary component look exactly like in the travel planner screenshot. And I want the API call to respond with a JSON object or easier, so we can easily parse the response and put it into the right place in our front. So we'll hit enter, and now it should create a bunch of new files. Okay, first we'll create a new file called route.ts. It will probably be created inside of our app component. Yeah, as you can see, it created a new file in the API folder called route.ts in the generate minus itinerary folder. It created a new itinerary and it updated the travel planner input and also the page.tsx. Now, obviously, we still need to do a bunch of things. For example, we need to install the Anthropic SDK, and we also need, let's just hit accept all for now, and we'll need to create a new file inside of our travel planner folder, which we call .nv, because we need the Anthropic API key, right? Because otherwise we won't be able to fetch anything from the console. So you want to go to console.anthropic.com, create a new account, hit create key, and we'll call it travel planner. We'll use the default workspace, and we want to copy that key, head back to cursor, and paste it like so. We still need to install the SDK, so we'll copy that, hit npm I, and we install it in the right directory. Now this should probably fix our error. Yes, we'll hit save again, and we switch back to our application and we try to enter a new destination. We want to go until the 12th. We want to have good food and nice sightseeing spots, and we'll enter a budget of 1,000. We'll hit generate itinerary, and now as you can see it should make an API request to generate itinerary in the backend, and this should only take a couple of seconds. And if everything works out, we should see something. Okay, we get an error, and yeah, okay. As you can see, it says error generating itinerary, syntax error, unexpected token, and this is likely due to the fact that the API doesn't only respond with the JSON object, because sometimes if you make an API request to Claude, it gives you an explanation for what it does. So for example, it doesn't just respond with the JSON object. It says something like, okay, here is a JSON object with the desired specifications. But that's not a big deal. We'll just copy paste it into Cursor Composer and say, okay, get an error, please fix it and explain step by step. And now it should come up with the solution. It should say something like, yeah, okay, the error is okay, yeah. The error occurs because we're trying to parse the response from Claude as JSON, but Claude is not returning a valid JSON string. Instead, it's likely returning a human-readable text response. Let's fix the error issue. And there, as you can see, respond with the JSON object. And it updated the route.ts file and explains, and it's explaining us what it did. So we updated the system prompt to explicitly request the JSON object. Now we'll hit accept all again. Our file is green, as you can see. And when we reload the page and enter all of the information again, so we want to go from the 10th until the 12th, good food sightseeing, and we again have a budget of 1,000. Again, we are making the API request in the backend, and now we get a different error. Itinerary.map is not a function. Let's see, again, we just copy that, and we'll go back to cursor, paste it, please fix the error and explain step by step. I apologize for the oversight. The error occurs because the itinerary prop in the itinerary component is not an array as expected. Now, as you can see, it makes a bunch of changes, and it also changes the route, so everything from the API call is mapped correctly to our front end. And now if we hit accept all and do that again, 1,000. And now, as you can see, we get the itinerary, but it still looks awful because the parsing doesn't work as expected. Okay, so obviously we get the different dates, so this is good. So we'll just copy that. Now I get a response back, but the design looks horrible. I can only see the JSON object in my front end, but it looks nothing like in the screenshot travel planner AI. For reference, here's the log from the console. I will paste it. I understand the issue. The problem is that the structure of the itinerary data returned by the AI doesn't match exactly what our itinerary component expects. Okay, yes. So we'll hit accept again. And this is just how it is, guys, right? It's a little bit of back and forth. You have to do some iterations until you actually get what you want. But that's just the price you have to pay for the ability to create apps with Cursor, right? And now this looks a lot better. Obviously, the styling is still a bit off, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Now we want the text to be black, and the same goes for this text black. And now we have it. So if we look at our screenshot of the application, where do we have it? Okay, so it looks pretty similar. Obviously, the font is not the correct one, but other than that, we have the background of the cards, and we have the card design of your itinerary component, and we have a description underneath each activity. Now that we've created the API call to Anthropic successfully, we can go ahead and create the next feature, which is the interactive map. And for that, we'll just copy it, head back over to Cursor and tell it to, okay, please add the next feature in our application, which is the interactive map you can find in PRD. You can also find a code snippet for Mapbox API. Where is it? Mapbox API. To copy that in prd.md, but for best practices, use Mapbox docs. Please create a separate API route for easier code base maintenance and scalability, and make the map component look exactly like in travel planner screenshot. So again, we'll hit enter and see what Composer comes up with. So as you can see, it parses the API docs from Mapbox and says, okay, certainly we'll use the Mapbox GL.js library as suggested in the documentation. First, let's create an API. And it created a new folder, Mapbox, inside of the API folder and added a new route. Now we still need to do a few things. So as you can see, we need to install Mapbox GL. So for that, we'll go to terminal, open a new terminal window and paste it here and install those two libraries. This should only take a couple of seconds. And the next thing we need is the Mapbox access token inside of our .env file. Okay, so we'll head back over to the .env file, paste it here, and we want to open mapbox.com, create a new account, go to account, and then we need to create a new access token. So as you can see, I've already created one and called it AI Travel Planner Demo. We'll just use that one, switch back to Cursor, delete that and paste it here and hit save. Same goes for all of the changes that Composer did. We'll hit save all, and this will write to the files. It will not yet accept all the changes, but write to the file so you can test the new features. And we want to enter our destination and all of the other information again. So later, when we implemented we will be able to see all of the past itineraries, but for now we have to generate them again each time. So, okay, we want to go to Tokyo. Okay, An API access token is required to use mapbox.gl. So it's in the map.tsx file. So we'll hit accept. Where is the problem? Okay, map.current new mapbox. Okay, API access token. So we'll add this. Here's the access token, and we'll use the name from our .env file, which is not next.public.access_token, but map.access_token. And I think this should already change. If something like this happens, you can always use Cursor Composer. We'll add that. I get this error. Please fix and explain step by step. I apologize for the oversight. The error occurs because we're not properly setting the mapbox access token. Now, create a new file, update the route. Now we should probably need to rename this to next.public.access_token. Copy that, delete it, and call it next. Hit save. And now, now as you can see, it immediately updates the map and real-time updates. So this is not what, okay, we want to appear with, we want it to appear with the itinerary, okay? Okay, great, that works. But I want the map to appear together with the itinerary. So after the user clicks generate itinerary button. Now we'll hit enter, and you can always add the code base or cursor to add as much context as possible. And we'll hit enter. Now it should make some changes in the travel planner input, and also, yeah, okay. Here's the updated travel planner input, as you can see. And it also should make some updates in the API routes, probably. No, only in the travel planner update. We'll hit update, we'll refresh the page. Now, as you can see, if I enter Tokyo, nothing happens, which is what we want. We want the 10th until the 12th. We want this good food and exciting sightseeing spots. And we want to add a budget of 1,000. Now we'll hit generating, and we'll make the request to the API route, and we should get back the itinerary and the map box. So this is awesome. And we can zoom, and we have all that we need. Okay, this is awesome. Now, obviously, the front end still is a bit off. Okay, we want the map and real-time updates beneath the itinerary, but other than that, we have implemented the second feature. So now we can implement the next feature of our application, which is the weather information, okay? And for that, we just copy it, go back to the composer and tell it to add the next feature, okay? I want to add the next feature, which is number 4 in PRD, or the weather information. For that, please use the provided code snippets for the Open Weather API, and also for fetching the exact geolocation of the location in PRD. Create a new API route for better code maintenance and easier debugging. Please use Open Weather geocoding docs and Open Weather Map API for coding best practices. The display of the weather info should exactly look like in Travel Planner PNG screenshot. So next to the map of the location, and everything should be displayed together after the user clicks generate itinerary. Now, again, we need a few more things to make this work. We need the Open Weather API key. So while Cursor is writing the code, we'll switch back to the browser and we'll go to openweathermap.org. You have to create a new account. I've already done this. This is why I'm already in my dashboard. You want to click on API, and here you can find the OneCall API 3.0, which is for free. Okay, you can make 1,000 API calls per day for free, and you want to click on the docs. This is where you can find the code snippets from earlier. Okay, but what we actually need is the API keys. So you want to click on your name and click on My API Keys. And as you can see, I've already generated a key for the AI travel planner. So we just use that, copy it, head back over to Cursor. Should be already finished. As you can see, it created a new API role called Weather, and we need to add the first we hit accept all, and then we open the .env file and enter the open weather API key, and we want to put our key there. We want to hit save. And so I'm not sure if this works already, but we'll just have to try, I guess. So we'll enter Tokyo again. We'll want to go from tomorrow until 12th. We want good food, exciting sightseeing spots, and we again have a budget of 1,000. We generate itinerary, so this should work without any errors because we've already made it work. And we should see all three things together. So we have the map, but we don't have the weather update. So why is that? Because we get an error. Now, the reason for that is probably that we are not using the correct longitude and latitude of the location. So we'll just copy that big error and we'll paste it into Composer and we tell it to fix it. So please fix the issue. Make sure that we first get the geolocation of the destination by making an API call to the Open Weather Geolocation API, and then using this response with the longitude and latitude of the destination to fetch the weather. Please explain step by step. And you still have to guide Cursor a bit, okay? I mean, you could just give it this error and say fix it, but you will probably run into an error loop. And if you, at least on a conceptual level, know what's going on in your code, you can, as I've said, guide Cursor and you will, again, minimize the potential errors that could be generated. Now, can I report it properties, reading temp? Please explain, please check if that is the issue and explain step by step. So again, we'll enter this. So unfortunately, error fetching weather data, there's not a property called reading temperature, but it also says, yeah, you're right. It seems to be with the weather API call. Let's fix this. So it will now go back into the weather route.ts file and make some changes. Now, as you can see, it changes the parameters to latitude, longitude, and again, we'll hit accept all. Let's see, this is still there. Another error could be that it probably doesn't use the free version of the API. Okay, so again, we have to refresh this and we have to enter all of the information again. And now, as you can see, we get the weather update of the location. Obviously, the design looks still a bit off, but that's not a big deal. So we'll go back to, I think it's inside of the map component, the weather data. So yeah, there it is. We just want the text to be black, and there we have it. Now, as you can see, we also get the log statement inside of the console with all of our weather data. And there you have it, guys. So this is how you can use Cursor to implement all of the feature. Now we still have one last feature left, which is the itinerary management. So we basically want to create a database for our itineraries. And whenever we create an itinerary, we want to add this data to Supabase or to our database so that we can access the itineraries again in the future. So as I've said, the last part of our application or the last feature is the itinerary management, and we want to add itineraries to the database and also retrieve and display saved itineraries. So for that, we want to ask Cursor, because if you've never built a database or connected the database to the front end, there are quite a few steps that you need to take. For now, we'll head back over to Cursor Composer, and we want to give it the following information. So the last feature I want to add is a database, and I want to use Supabase as, so we add the Supabase docs as the database provider. Now, for now, please create a small PR project requirements doc or a step-by-step plan that I can give to a backend engineer so that he can implement the database and integrate it into my current project structure. It's vital that the database works with my current project. I don't want to restructure it in any way to communicate with the database. I want to use Prisma, and we'll talk about in a bit, and we'll talk about what Prisma is in a bit. Prisma docs. No need to generate the code yet. Just give me the step-by-step plan. So, and what Cursor is going to do now is it will create something similar to our project requirement doc. Okay, now we need to set up Supabase, we need to install the necessary dependencies, we need to set up the environment variables for Supabase, and we need to initialize Prisma and also define the model and set up the Supabase connection. Now, as you can see, we have 15 new steps that we need to take, and I'd say we'll start with installing the necessary dependencies. So we need to install Supabase and also Prisma and Prisma client. Now, Supabase URL and also the key, the public key, we get it from Supabase directly, so we need to open supabase.com. You just have to create a new account, and then you will be redirected to the dashboard. As you can see, I've already created a new project, but if you have one, you click on New Project, you choose the organization, and then you can give it a name and also a password. So I will just go with that, and then you want to click on Project Settings, and you want to click on API, and there you have the project URL, which you want to enter here, and you also have the key that you want to paste here. So we'll delete that, we'll paste it here, we'll hit save, and then we need to initialize the Prisma client, so we'll go with Prisma init. This, I'm not sure if that works because we haven't set up Prisma in the Prisma dashboard yet, but let's see. Okay, that worked. Okay, now as you can see, we've got a few more environment variables. We get the database URL, and the database URL you can find in Supabase too. You have to click on database, and then you have to uncheck the display connection pooler. You have to copy that string and put it here. Now, as you can see, we still need our password. and I'm using a password manager, so that's why I will just copy it and paste it here. Paste it here. Now we'll save that. Now, for Prisma to work, we actually need to set up Prisma. So go to prisma.io. Again, you have to create an account. You will be logged in. And I think I've already created the project. It's the humorous slate platypus. But just for the sake of this video, I will probably create a new environment. So let's delete the project, copy paste, delete. Now, when you've created a new account, you want to go to your personal workspace and you want to click New Project. Inside of your new project, you want to click on Get Started for Accelerate. And here you need the database URL that you already pasted into your .env file. You paste it here. You use the you select the region and you click on Create Project. Now this will take only a couple of seconds and you will be redirected to your dashboard. So for now, we don't need to enable Accelerate. We'll just go and click on a dashboard. And now you should see the new, click on Personal Workspace. Now you should see the new project, which is in my case, the Peaceful Lime Unicorn. And in the schema.prisma, define the models for your travel planner. Okay, so you could do this manually, but we'll just use Composer to do this. As you can see, there is already a boilerplate schema.prisma file, and now we tell Cursor to create the actual schema for our application. Okay, now I need to do step 5, which is configuring the schema.prisma file, but I want you to do it for me. So please scan the code base and create the schema so that I can save the itineraries that I generate with the application, which means I need the model for the itinerary. And we'll see if Cursor gets it right on the first try, because as you can see, we need 4 different things, right? We need the day, we also need the date, and we need the activity, we need the description, and we need the cost for each of the different days. And I think we also have a description for the different days, right? So we'll see if Cursor will get it right on the first try, as I've said. So create the necessary files and tell me what to do next. Okay, Prisma. Now we need to run the migration comment again, and we still get errors. Except now this should work, and we should see our tables appear in the database if everything goes according to plan, at least. Now, if we switch back over to Superbase, you can see we now have the activity, day, and itinerary table in our database, which is great. Now, inside of our composer, this is probably not correct since we've already created the Prisma client, I believe. We have created the Prisma client, and if we're using, okay, now the question is if we already push everything to the database, and we'll see. Modify the existing route itinerary. Where is it? So will it accept all? Now, as you can see, we use Prisma to create a new itinerary, and also, or rather a new connection to the database. And let's see if this already works. We'll go to, so let's see if that already works. We don't get any issues so far, which is great. We go to Tokyo. We want to go from the 10th until the 12th. We have 1,000 and we hit generate. And as you can see, we get an error immediately. I cannot read property of null reading map. Okay, so failed to save itinerary. So this is normal because we cursor messed with the files a bit. Now I get an error in please fix and explain step by step. Don't delete or change any of the features we have so far. I just want to add the database connection so the itineraries are saved to Supabase. First, let's modify the generate itinerary API route to handle cases where the itinerary might not be present. Create a new API route for saving the itinerary. Okay, before that, we wanted to do everything in one file, and now we have an extra file where we first get the itinerary and then make a API call to save it to Supabase. So we'll hit accept all. Cannot find module or its corresponding type declarations. Okay. So for some reason, we still don't have the Prisma client, generated Prisma client, start imported. Let's see what chat suggests us to do. Okay, yeah. So we already done this. So the TS config file needs to be updated, compiler options, and we need the base URL, and also we already have that. Base URL is the dot. So there's probably something wrong with the import statement. Let's restart the server just to make sure everything works. No, we don't want to. npm run dev. So we reload. This should work. Again, we want to travel to Tokyo 10 to 12, and we have a budget of fail to save itinerary. Okay, but now we get a different error, which is great. So it says unable to require. Well, the Prisma engine do not seem to be compatible with your system. Okay, yeah, okay, npm run dev. So there was a typo for those of you who didn't see. There was a typo in the lib in the import statement. I get this error. So, and this is not correct because I have used Prisma multiple times before. Okay, so this error indicates that Prisma is having trouble initializing and loading its query engine. It's likely due to a mismatch between the installed Prisma version and your system architecture. Delete the Prisma generated files. Okay, node modules.prisma and reinstall. We also want to generate the Prisma client again. If you're using a custom output path for Prisma client, make sure you're correctly specified in your schema.prisma file. Okay, yeah, I'm not. Okay, pm run dev. We want to try it again. And now it seems to work. At least it's okay. Authentication failed, which is great. We get another error. Authentication failed against database server. The provided database credentials for Postgres are not valid. So now I've checked off camera what the issue was all about, and it was probably due to the fact that I've used special characters in my password. So now I've changed it to only use normal characters like numbers and letters, and I've also changed it inside of my Supabase dashboard. So let's check if that already resolved the issue. Now we still get some errors in route.ts. Itinerary route.ts, save itinerary. Okay. Why? Because ip.db in save itinerary route. I forgot to save the updated import statement. And now if we do this, do we still get an error? Yes, we do. But the error changed. Okay, though it seemed that itinerary map is not a function. So now I get a different error. And this error suggests that there's an issue with the data structure being passed to save itinerary API route. Okay, now save itinerary. So we'll apply that and we'll hit accept, save. The issue in this line. Okay. So we'll accept this, we'll save, and we'll see if this already did the trick. What error do we get now? Cannot read properties of undefined reading map. Again, I still get an error. Please fix and explain step by step. Now we'll probably want to hand this to Composer. So let's just reject all. I still get an error. Please fix and explain step by step. Now we'll hit enter. I apologize for the confusion. Let's debug step by step. Now let's add some checks to ensure that the data structure is what we expect. Okay, we'll hit accept all. We refresh. And again, guys, it's just a matter of back and forth with, we still get the error. It's still the same. Itinerary days is not an array. Okay, now something happens. Okay, we receive the itinerary, but for some reason we don't get the days. Okay, now, so there still seems to be an issue with how the API response data is passed to the other API route. Okay, now I get this. Please fix and explain step by step. Thank you for providing the message. The problem is that the days array is nested inside an itinerary object, which wasn't expected in our current code structure. Now it will update the code again. We'll hit accept all. We'll refresh. We probably get another error. Yes, okay. Itinerary days is empty or not an array. Yeah. For some reason, the days array is empty, so there seems to be an issue either with generating the API response from Claude or passing the data to the other API route to add it to Supabase. Let's work through it step by step. You're right, the issue seems to be that the dates array is empty when it reaches the save itinerary endpoint. Let's work through this step by step and identify and fix the problem. So save all, we refresh, and again we, okay, okay, now I get this error. Please use Anthropic docs for best practices. Don't just hallucinate a solution. I want you to create the correct code and make all the features of my application work. And sometimes this happens too, right? Because Cursor, I don't know why, but it hallucinates some of the API roads that don't really exist, or it changes some of the existing code. And sometimes it's quite a hassle if you want to connect multiple features to each other. For example, this is complete bullshit. We use the Anthropic completion create method to generate the itinerary specifying the Claude 2.1 model. So this is obviously not what we want at all. So we'll cancel apply, reject all, and we'll just wanted to fix this, okay? I get this error. Please fix using API Claude Anthropic API docs. Don't just hallucinate code. Now it seems to work. We probably had another issue. Okay, so what's the error now? Unexpected token. It's not valid JSON. Format the response as a JSON object. Now this is a good example. So you should always think about the backend first, right? So this is obviously a mistake that I made. You first have to add the backend first before you actually go ahead and implement the front end, because now, as you can see, it becomes a real shit fest because it just goes ahead, deletes files. You don't really have any idea what it's doing. And obviously this is just not good. Now, obviously there's another issue with the schema now, because as you can see, we have the estimated cost, and we don't have that in our database, because if you look at the table editor and we click on itinerary, we don't have the cost, right? As you can see, activity. Now I get this error. Please fix and explain step by step. Thank you for providing the detailed error. The issue is that the Prisma schema expects a cost field for activities, but the generated itinerary uses estimated cost. Let's fix this step by step. First, let's update the generated itinerary route to map the estimated cost to cost. There we have it. Cost, estimated cost. And we also update the schema. Where is it? Schema.prisma, as you can see. So we want to hit accept all, and we want to use this. Now, we almost have it. We still get one last error, which is that it cannot read the properties when it comes to saving the itinerary. So to handle the new data structure, it will probably, we're now accessing data morning activity. Okay. Yeah, and especially when you're implementing the database, this is why you want to do that first thing, right? Because then you have it and you don't need to like change the files later. So we'll now accept all, and we'll get back to the, let's just run the server again. So we'll refresh, and now we'll enter our information. So let's see. We'll probably get another error. Itinerary map is not a function. Okay. Now I get this error, and it's in itinerary. Please fix and explain step by step. Now we also want to add the different files, travel planner input, schema.prisma. So the more context you give it, the better the output will be. I apologize for the oversight. The error occurs because itinerary prop is not an array as expected. Let's fix this step by step. And we'll go to itinerary. Let's update the generate itinerary route. And now we'll hit save all. And again, we'll do the changes, make the changes. So let's see. There's another error. Don't be ridiculous. Is that all you've got? Please fix the issues. Use the correct data types and don't be such an idiot. So this is an error loop that is really exhausting, but it's good that we landed in one, because the first thing you should always do is create the back end and then work from there, because it's way easier. So again, let's refresh. Okay, yeah, so this is not really a problem. The only thing we have to do is like add the URL to our next.config.js, but other than that, everything else seems to work, as you can see in the console. So we have to go there and we'll add another domain, which is openweathermap.org, and we'll save that, and let's do that again. So, and now we finally get the correct location and everything seems to work. And if we look into our database, we should see the different days and also the activities of the itinerary, as you can see. So guys, the last thing we want to add to our application is the ability to retrieve itineraries from the database, right? So we've added a feature where we add the different itineraries to our database. As you can see, I've added another one which is called Chicago, with the different days and also the different activities, for example, the Millennium Park, Statue of Liberty, and so on. And now we want to be able to retrieve this data to actually look at past itineraries. Okay, now for that I switch back to cursor and basically give it this exactly that instruction. So great, everything works. Now I want the ability to retrieve past itineraries from the database. For that, please add this feature so the user can click a tab or a button in the front end in a position where it makes sense from a UX standpoint. Then we'll fetch past itinerary and there and another tab or page opens where the user can look at past itineraries in a visual, pleasing way. So we'll hit enter and see if that is specific enough for cursor to do its thing. Now, certainly I'll add a feature to retrieve and display past itineraries. We'll create a new component for this and update the existing components to include this functionality. So we'll update the route.ts to fetch past itineraries. As you can see, there is a new route called get itineraries. And now let's create a new component to display past itineraries, and also we'll make some changes in travel planner and itinerary.tsx. Now, there are still a few issues inside of these files, as it seems, but for now we'll just hit accept all and see if that was already enough, if we hit past itineraries. And there you have it. As you can see, we now have successfully added the last feature to make our application complete, which is fetching the past itineraries. And obviously here are some that are empty because when we tested the itinerary feature, not all of the itineraries were successfully added to the database. So it obviously shows the empty ones too, right?